I think we'll probably kick things off now, and then people can, if we've got any latecomers in, we can let them in and they can join. But thank you everyone for joining us in this call today. This is one of our Brighton Fringe events of the 2020 autumn season. It's a Fringe Academy called Fringe Festivals Around the World. It's one of our events for the autumn season that was originally scheduled to take place in May, but obviously due to COVID-19, we've had to rearrange things. But it's been a lot of work putting together this autumn Fringe, but it's coming along quite well. We've had 83 events in total with 709 performances across those for the autumn, which has been lovely. And yeah, definitely looking forward to this workshop today. We have Holly here from World Fringe, who will be leading things here. Hello, Holly.
Oh, morning, afternoon, sorry. Morning and afternoon, because we've got people here from all over the world. So good morning to those. Have you handed over, Cameron, or would you like to say anything else?
I think that'll be everything. If we might have, I think we'll have places during the workshop for questions at some point, but in the meantime, if people could remain muted with their video off, so we can make sure we can highlight the guest speakers here, that would be great.
Thank you, Cameron. Yes, fringe folk of fringe producing folk, keep your cameras on. You know who you are. So thank you. Welcome everyone, and welcome all the fringers who are here. I'm Holly, Director of World Fringe, and today we're going to be finding out a little bit more and digging in a little bit more about who these Fringe Festival directors are, what fringes they run, and what has been the challenges they faced in the face of COVID-19, obviously. That has kind of torn our sector apart the last 8 months, or however long lifetime it feels like now. So Fringe festivals, there are 300 or thereabouts all around the world. It's a moving feast. Some finish, some start. And we, as soon as we think we know exactly how many, another one pops up somewhere else. So it's about 300 Fringe festivals. And the original Fringe festival we all know is Edinburgh Fringe, and that started in 1947. I'm just going to give you a little kind of history of what started when, and how there's been a kind of boom of fringe in the last decade. But in 1947, the Edinburgh Fringe began as a reactive movement against a programme festival that artists in the local area could not get into. Shortly after that, not too far after, is Wexford in Ireland started a fringe festival in 1952. In 1958, Vancouver Fringe started in Canada. 1960, we've got Adelaide. When did Orlando start? That must be one of the first in the States.
92, so 30 years old.
Okay, 82.
92.
92, right, okay, well, we're not quite there yet. So 1960, Adelaide Fringe started. In 1968, Avignon off in France. 1970, 3 fringes started in that decade, and that was Windsor, Ilkley Literature Fringe, and the National Arts Fringe in South Africa. Then in 1910, fringes started. Orlando that decade, and Orlando was part of that. In 2000, another 40 fringes started in that decade, and 2010 to today, another 158 fringes started. So it has doubled in the last 10 years. But the sobering statistic of that is 1 in 3 fringes have closed. So we have got over 100 fringes that we have on our record books that we've been in contact with at some point and have closed since. So there are huge booms and there are huge closures as well. So sometimes they start often as a reaction to something, and when that or a funding boom, and once that's over or somebody moves on, the Fringe finishes, which is always a sad and unfortunate moment to see a Fringe close. But we have some open ones here and some brilliant ones here represented from all over the world. So I'm going to start to let everyone introduce themselves. So why don't we go across, as I can see. So Anita, why don't you start?
Hi there, I'm from Ludlow Fringe Festival, which is in Shropshire in England. And that's just on the Welsh borders. So it's not that easy to get to sometimes, but we are on a train line. And our Fringe has been going since 2012. We started, but went independent in 2013. So we started as a part of the Ludlow Festival, which sadly folded. But we basically are Ludlow Festival now. So we have around 40 venues that we use around the town, and we're, we have everything happens here, and our dates are from the 19th of June to the 4th of July next year. We're a small medieval market town, and we can virtually double the size of it within within the time of the festival, which is lovely because it's such a small little place that everyone can get on and everyone can get seen. I should say it's time of day here. It's 4 p.m. in the afternoon, so just right for a cup of tea. It probably isn't the same anywhere else in the world, but
Yes, snap here as well. Anita, why don't you tell us about your Fringe? Thank you, Anita.
Did you say me?
Yeah.
Sorry. Oh, hi. Hi, everyone. I'm Alana from Orlando Fringe, representing Orlando, Florida in the U.S. Our festival takes place the last 2 weeks of May. Next year will be May 18th through the 31st. We are, as Holly mentioned, the oldest Fringe in the U.S. and one of the largest in North America. We're a proud member of the Canadian Association of Fringe Festivals and the United States Association of Fringe Festivals, as well as World Fringe. And we are so honored and happy to be hosting World Fringe Congress in 2022, where we will be gathering all these beautiful collective brains and brilliance and coming together physically, which would be wonderful in 2022 to get together and share best practices.
Can't wait for that. Thank you, Alana. Kath.
Hi everybody, I'm Kath Matos. I work with Holly on World Fringe, and I produce the Wandsworth Arts Fringe, which is in London, takes place in May. Last year we did the WAF in Your Living Room as a digital festival this past year, and this year we're just opening for expressions of interest for 7th to 23rd of May. We're open to all offers. Whether they can all happen is as yet unknown, obviously.
Thank you, Kath. And 2 for the price of 1 in Prague. Can you introduce yourselves?
Hello, I'm Steve Gove. I'm the founder and director of the Prague Fringe. We were the 31st Fringe Festival to start back in 2002. Very proud about that. This is Rosie, my colleague, who's the general manager. She can chat for a bit as well.
Hi. We usually, in an ordinary year, take place at the end of May in the beautiful centre of Prague, just underneath Prague Castle. We have 8 venues. We usually have around 50 productions, about 250 performances over 9 days. We're fairly small. We like it that way. We call ourselves a boutique festival, so we focus on quantity rather than quality, the other way around, quality rather than quantity. This year we were forced to postpone our festival. We did a instant digital Fringe in May, which we kind of pulled together really quickly with our applications that we already had ready. And we're currently working on a second digital festival full of Czech work taking place in November this year. So we're doing 2 festivals this year instead of 1.
So instead of bringing the world to Prague, we're bringing Prague to the world.
Amazing. Thank you. That sounds exciting. Can't wait for that. Thank you, you guys. Carmel.
Good morning, everyone. It's 11 a.m. on the East Coast of the United States. I'm in Richmond, Virginia, with the Richmond Fringe Festival. I'm the founder directrix of this festival, which was born in 2020 at the beginning of April. So we've only ever been a digital festival, but that was by accident, and we'll talk about that more later. But I also was founder of the Shenandoah Fringe Festival, which was another boutique, rural-spaced festival that happened and kind of shut its doors. And so now Richmond can bloom. It's a little bit bigger of a city, but still small city in the US. I think that's really it. There's a lot to say about Richmond and how our fringes grow here, but I don't have a lot of information to share yet because everything is so different this year and we're still building. So hopefully the rest of these Fringeketeers who are here today and who are watching can be part of the story of Richmond Fringe moving forward.
And what time is it there? I keep forgetting to ask you all.
11 a.m.
11 a.m. Cool, and that's the same in Orlando and Prague. What time is it there?
4 o'clock in the morning here.
I don't believe you. Moving on, Lucy.
5:30.
5:16.
Thank you. Voice of reason. Lucy, introduce yourself.
Hello. Hi, everybody. I'm Lucy Evely. I'm the Executive Director of the Toronto Fringe in Canada. It's 11:16 a.m. here on Thanksgiving Monday. And hi, I was just perfect timing. I'm just in a meeting, honey. So Toronto Fringe has been around since 1989. We are a 12-day festival and we happen usually at the beginning of July. Our dates for 2021 will be actually June 30th until July 11th. We usually have about 140 companies over that time, 20 site-specific venues, and then the rest are our main venues. Obviously, those things will probably change quite dramatically next year. This year, we switched to a digital festival very quickly as well. We moved to the Fringe Collective, and we had about 52 of our companies that wanted to participate, and we offered everybody the chance to defer their place to 2021. So that's what we're working on right now, is figuring out who's actually going to be in the festival next year. We're also a member of CAF, Canadian Association of Fringe Festivals, of which I'm also the president of. So we meet once a week as well to kind of discuss what we're doing and planning and being a shoulder to cry on at times and support one another through this ridiculous time. Yeah, so that's where we're at. Nice to see you all.
Thanks, Lucy. Emery.
Hi, it's Istanbul Fringe and it's 6:20 p.m. in Istanbul now. And we are also a newbie. So we just opened last year. It was our first edition. It happened in the 3rd week of September. And this year we also switched to online edition. So last year we used around 20 venues for 22 companies from all over the world. And it was a great experience for us because in Istanbul you have the Bosphorus, so you have both sides in both continents, and you can have 2 performances at the same time on Asia and on Europe, so which is quite cool for the artists. And we had almost 4,000 people participating in the performances and in the workshops last year. And this year we used a lot YouTube, and we had 1 performance on WhatsApp, and we had another collaboration with a museum from Eindhoven, which we broadcast live in Istanbul on our YouTube channel. And we had a lot of panels and artist talks on Instagram TV, and we were really active this year. We had like 7 days full of events and performances and almost 40,000 viewers in a week.
Cool, that sounds amazing. Well done, thank you. Davide, please.
Hi all, thank you everyone. And here is Davide. I'm a founder of Nolo Fringe Festival. Nolo is a district of Milan, Italy. Here is more or less 5:30, and I thought I was the newest one, but I think the Richmond defeated me because it's just ended the second edition of the Ludlow Fringe Festival just 2 weeks ago, all in presence, luckily, and we had 40 events, more or less 1,500 persons as an audience. So we are small, yes, but great ideas and great hopes for the future. We are already working for the third edition, which will be in September 2021.
Thank you very much. Adam.
Hi, I'm Adam from Stockholm Fringe and the Nordic Fringe Network. We're in our 11th year, and we would consider ourselves to be a boutique festival as well. Small is beautiful, Davide. We of course, like everybody else, started the year in Adelaide at one of the biggest fringes in the world, at the World Fringe Congress, and came down to lockdown where we just had selected our program for the festival. So we went from our usual 150 acts, maybe 13 venues, to 3 venues and 50 acts, and we took the format of a hybrid festival, and we did that after consultations with all the artists. So we spoke with each artist. How are you feeling? You know, how's your health? Do you have food on your table? How do you want to perform at our Fringe? And most people wanted to participate, most in a pay-per-view format, but many in interactive forms. And then, so we stream their work via a platform. And then we have live streams from different venues in Stockholm. And this was a part of an exchange with Sydney Fringe, which I'll talk about later, called the Global Fringe, under the hashtag Stay Local, Watch Global. So we soldiered on, and it was good. It was an interesting experience, and we want to do it again because we think that the Fringe must go on, no matter what.
Must. Thank you, Adam. Julian.
Hello, I'm Julian Cady. I'm the CEO of Brighton Fringe in the UK. We normally run during the month of May. We cancelled, of course, and we're running an autumn season as we speak. That's all I'm going to say now, because I'm going to say other things later, otherwise I can go on.
We've got Kathleen here, but you've got your camera off, and Helena, and any other Fringe Festival, Renato. Kathleen, why don't you introduce yourself? And Melissa's here then after Melissa. Kathleen, please.
Hey, my name is Kathleen O'Malley. I'm the producer of the Borderlight Fringe, which is part of the Borderlight International Theater and Fringe Festival in Cleveland, Ohio, Midwest of the United States. And we're a pretty baby Fringe as well. I love this boutique Fringe. I'm going to grab that. We had our first festival in 2019. We're a biennial festival. So we were able to actually leapfrog 2020 and have been hot and heavy in planning 2021 with all the incredible insights and discoveries, pulling from and borrowing from and learning from our peer fringes who are navigating the hairy outdoor and virtual streamed world. So we also are planning a hybrid festival for next summer. It's a short festival, just 4 days at the end of July.
Thank you, Kathleen. And Renato and Melissa are from the same Fringe, but they've both disappeared. Here he is. Renato, would you like to say hello? Melissa, would you like to say hi where you're from? You're muted, Renato. Yeah.
Go ahead, Renato.
Hi, I'm Renato Lombardo from Milano Off Fringe Festival. It takes, should be in September 2020, but we canceled because our festival is very large. Intention of guesting people from all over Europe and the world, and was impossible to make it for this year. We are planning for June 2021. We arrived on the 4th edition. It's a very large edition, and I hope we could guest company and artists from all over Europe and abroad. And it's a very large festival. we're preparing it, but Melissa maybe could add something more.
I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head, Renato. We're going into our 4th year, so a relatively new festival. We're still toying and experimenting with a lot of different formats and venues, but we've lucky to have confirmed our own current venue in the Fabbrica del Vapore, which is a really cool old warehouse converted into performing arts space by us. And we are looking forward to seeing people from all over the world send in their applications, hopefully in the next upcoming months.
Brilliant. Thank you, everybody. Unless there's anyone else hiding, I think that is all the fringes in the room introduced. So thank you, everyone. I'm going to ask a few questions of our lovely fringes. Carmel, so look, we touched on it a bit earlier, but you were the first fringe almost to kind of go from a live edition planned to a digital fringe, and that happened very, very quickly. Can you tell us what happened and also how you shared your learning, because you did a lot of sharing of that learning with fringes all over the world. You were almost the guinea pig for world fringes going digital. Can you tell us what happened?
Sure. Yes, we were in fact the very first digital fringe festival, and that was just an accident. We had planned to debut the Richmond Fringe over a 3-day period in the beginning of April of 2020, and everything was in place. Everything was in place. The things had been printed, like the sandwiches had been made, like everything was done. And I got back from Adelaide Fringe Congress, which was extremely energizing and wonderful. And I got on one of the last planes back into the States during the Corona lockdowns. And then because America doesn't take science very seriously, we didn't quite know what was going on for a long time about safety and lockdown. So my team and I actually redesigned the Fringe 3 different times in that like 2.5 week period of time between getting off the plane and actually doing the festival about like, okay, we have to say goodbye to the people who are coming from a long way away because travel restrictions are in place now. Okay, maybe we can do it like this where we just invite people from within 100 miles and like, okay, maybe we just do digital and we don't have audiences, but we still have people from performers within 100 miles. Okay, maybe we can do it with really high quality video as compensation to them because there's no ticket sales. We had to redesign it so many times that it felt impossible to stop because there's no time to breathe. Like I had just gotten off the plane from Adelaide and was full of a lot of energy. So thank the snake god for that, like adrenaline boost. But it was necessary and really upsetting at the same time to make the decisions to cut performers and disinvite people and try and make it worth their while much as our while, because Richmond Fringe Festival is a profit sharing model. So we actually do a 50-50 split and our fees are so low. And by low, I mean less than $100 to participate. And it's a curated boutique festival. So we take a lot of risk in the festival as an organization. And so the fact that there would be no money whatsoever coming in, and we didn't have grants and we didn't have government backing, and all of the money had already been spent on posters and programs and rentals and things like that. It was really wonderful that the 4 acts that were able to transition into being just digital were willing to give of themselves as much as we were able to give of ourselves to learn how to do these things. So we chose a platform called Crowdcast, which in the early days was one of the only platforms to do conferencing style things with like interactive chats and embeddable players. And so we chose that, and we chose to have it be ticketed, where you could buy a day pass and get to see all of the shows. So it was $15 to see the 4 shows, and then we had a variety show in the evening that was free, pay as you can. So we were able to get some of the acts that we had lost their whole show. We invited them back to do a little, like a 5 or 10 minute variety style bit, or a flash, a bit of a tease of what they had been planning to bring. So puppet shows and burlesque and storytelling and things like that. So we did a lot of learning very, very, very quickly about what kind of microphones you need to use, how do you set up the cushion, like take the cushions off of your couch and set them up around you, but make sure that they're out of the frame. So we did a lot of learning very quickly about how to DIY the situation, because not only did no one have any money, but because everyone saw this kind of coming so fast, like a tidal wave, the infrastructure wasn't there yet. The bandwidth wasn't there yet. The web cameras were not available. You could buy a web camera for $350 off of Amazon, which usually only cost $40, because there was such a shortage so fast of these basic things. So we had to find really smart and clever ways of letting people use the things that they had, or give them opportunities to, point them in the direction of the thing that would help them be the best at what they could be. And so we learned all of this very quickly. We had a person doing closed captioning for us, which was amazing. That came around later. We had hoped, that was a big thing that we lost, because we transitioned so hard, is that we lost the ability and the resources to close caption like as the shows were happening. And so we had to debut those versions later, which is an access point real problem that many of us are trying to figure out. But the sharing that came with it, and my last moments of talking to you guys, is it was so necessary and so natural to just say, here's the sheet that we put together that says, like, put your lights at this position and this position, take the blankets off your bed, make sure that you hardwire into your internet. These are the things you need to consider. We are here for you, and like, please ask us as many questions. We just put up a 1 sheet, and then I shared that with the rest of the Fringe festivals that were interested, talked a lot about platforming and like how to do the things we did, what was successful, what really wasn't successful. But I thought it was karmic, because when I was first starting out with building festivals, people, the Asheville Fringe, the St. Louis Fringe, and the Capital Fringe were all absolutely so generous with their information and their time to help me learn what to do and how to do it, like literally sharing spreadsheets with me and just going, oh, look at our budget, this is what it looks like. Oh, look at this is what it looks like. So in the Fringe industry, I'd say that the sharing of information and the generosity of spirit, and knowing that you're not in competition with one another, that this tide raises all boats, is something that will continue to pay forward. And I thought that was just part of the ecosystem, was to share as much as we could. So It's been 7 months, so you guys have now learned a lot and changed a lot of the best practices, and the platforms have changed a lot. So we now in turn have been learning a lot again from all of you.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much, Carmel. And what a learning experience everyone had. I love the way that you said in the early days there was only Crowdcast, like it was when mobile phones only had text, but it was only 6 months ago. What a change that we've had. Thank you for sharing that. Anita, you had a very exciting moment where you gained Arts Council England funding to kind of change your Fringe from live to digital. And in Ludlow, we know you've got a very loyal set of audiences and participants in the festival. How did you find keeping connected with them and with your communities while presenting a digital Fringe?
Yeah, I mean, the loyalty was really to our performers, to our local performers, to that sort of feeling that we still wanted to get international touring performers involved. and obviously make sure that our own community was engaging in it. We were lucky. We were lucky to get quite a considerable amount of money from the Arts Council. And with that, what we did was we offered free registration to all of our performers. Anyone who wanted to come to it or put work online, it was free for them. And any donations that they made, they could keep 100%. There was an option to give 20% to us if they wanted, but I can't say that happened. But no, there was a few actually, and some did actually donate all of their money to us as well, anything they took. So yeah, I mean, we spread that. We had world performers from, you know, from all over the place that came, Brazil, America, Iceland, and that was lovely. It was really nice. And it also kept that balance. We still had the balance from Shakespeare to comedy to puppetry to everything, you know, to dance, and a lovely broad program of work. With our own community, we actually had the opportunity to work directly with the community through schools, through local organisations, through companies, and we did a bunting trail on the theme of Beautiful Earth. So it was giving people an opportunity to sort of make artwork about, you know, all the beautiful things that they'd considered and seen during lockdown, and learn to appreciate. And we had over 750 pieces of work came to us, individual pieces of work, which we then sort of set up. We strung it all out, and that was all over the town. So that was displayed in shop windows, around the castle, down on the Millennium Green by the river. You know, so there was artwork everywhere throughout the town, and it all had that theme. Some of it was photography, some of it was poetry, some of it was you know, sort of drawings and that from the children, and it really, and that was right across the board as well, from 3-year-olds to 93-year-olds or more, because we actually had some work come from care homes as well, and it was beautiful. It was really, really lovely. And also we had an art trail, so we invited local artists to work. We sort of did this as a collaboration with our Chamber of Trade and Commerce as well, to invite the shops and the artists to work together. So whilst everybody was in that sort of, like, we were still quite in lockdown then, really, I suppose. But it was to actually use the shop windows, vacant shops, cafes as exhibition spaces. And so that was a sort of a buddying up of artists to venues. And so that was very visual as well. And it, you know, so as people could walk around the town, and people were coming to Ludlow because I think they felt safe here. You know, it's a safe and pretty town. So yeah, that was well received, and I know a lot of our visual artists made some very, very good sales during that time. I think also with like in supporting our performers was, I think we all learned very quickly there how to work online, and things move so fast, as you were saying to Carmel there. It was like the old, you know, in those early days.
Yeah,
it moves so quickly.
Yeah, it does.
Things that even between the start and the finish, within a month, people had learned so much. Yeah. I say we were lucky in that we had that money from the Arts Council, that we could actually work with local filmmaker of Wild Edric Media, local film company, as well, to support our sort of more local performers to actually do productions, to film them so that they could go live and live streamed, pre-recorded, line throughout the festival. So yeah, we were incredibly lucky, and yeah, I'm really pleased and really happy to say that, because otherwise we wouldn't have been able to do it at all.
No, I know, and I think that's the same for lots of people, is that there was a make or break moment, and I'm really pleased that you got the funding and you got a festival off the ground. So thank you, Anita, that's amazing. Lucy, so in your Fringe, you talk about making your Fringe Festival accessible to all, and that's one of your key sort of stories about your festival. And what about the kind of digital hybrid version of Fringes? Do you think that we're more likely to see that happen, and is that making them more accessible and possibly more sustainable and more greener for touring and things like that? What's your thoughts on that, Lucy?
Yeah, as you said, access is a key value of the Toronto Fringe. So for this year, for the Fringe Collective, which was our digital online offering, we asked everybody to participate to create something specific for this, as opposed to like just putting their Fringe shows into a digital format. And we also put a time limit. So in many ways, being able to mandate accessibility features was a lot easier in this context. So everybody that submitted a video had to have it captioned. Everybody who submitted a PDF had to have it screen reader compatible. We also offered a listening party for blind folks and for those with vision loss. And we had those audio described. And everything in many ways could be offered as a relaxed performance, because obviously the viewers at home and they can watch it how they need to feel comfortable. So those were things that we did this year. Some people included ASL in their videos, actually like included it as opposed to having a video next to it, which is great if that's your only option, but it is really awesome, I think, for deaf folks to have ASL included in the actual piece that you're offering, so they don't have to kind of switch what they're watching. And we had a lot of conversations with DIS artists during this time as we look to the future, 2021, and I think have to accept that there will be digital hybrid. And I think there's pros to that and some cons, but let's focus on the pros for now. I think that for us, it's about not only can anybody watch it from anywhere in the world, unless you're streaming it at the time zone thing, but it's also for those people that have mobility issues can actually watch pieces of theatre without having to worry about how to get to our theatres, even though all of our theatres are accessible. Even just getting to a theatre from the TTC can be complicated. But also for those who feel vulnerable during COVID. Like I think next year we have to, unless suddenly the world is vaccinated by July, which I don't see happening, there's going to be a lot of people that still want to stay home. So I think offering a digital option, I don't think we can digitize everything. I think that's too complicated, too expensive. And because Toronto Fringe is not curated, there's a real difference in terms of what is being offered, and not everybody, for some people it's their first Fringe, never mind doing a Fringe digitally. So we have to kind of be selective, I think, about what we're offering. But I think there's advantages of being able to offer work that includes access features. And I think because we deferred all of our artists, they will have a lot of time now to be able to consider those features. Like what we try and say to the artists, what I encourage everyone is, when you're casting, when you're picking out your director, think about accessibility measures right from the beginning. It shouldn't just be an add-on that you do at the very end. It should be like integrated into the work you're doing. So I think that people have a chance to do that now, because whilst captioning is great for those people that are hard of hearing, often captioning isn't great for deaf folks because English isn't their first language in our case. So ASL is obviously the preferred interpretation or the equivalent to whatever country you're in. So I think that's something bad as well. And also a lot of art disabilities as we move forward for people within the time of COVID is also a great way for people to get connected. And as you talk about this way of like connecting with international artists, for us, I think like the international artists, we don't know if we can offer space for international artists. We don't know what's going to happen with the borders, but certainly our billet program, for example, we have people in our city who offer homes to people that are coming in. That might be really, really complicated for people. So the option to offer digital work for international folks who are traveling, obviously that then reduces their carbon footprint and reduces their cost. They can still be part of a festival even if they're not actually physically here. So that's definitely makes a lot of sense. I think the problem is making digital work, monetizing it, because I think there's been so much work that's been put out for free on the digital platform. I think we sort of made an error at the beginning of this when everybody was just putting out content for free, and now it's really hard to make people pay for it because they're expecting it, and they're also expecting, in terms of our Fringe, a certain level. You know, they're seeing things put online from the National Theatre and expecting everything to be of the same quality, and that's not the case necessarily with a Fringe show. So I think you really need to contextualize digital work as well. And I think, yeah, so for us, it's really about the integration of that and making it financially viable for folks to still be involved in our festival. We also had a bunch of live events, which we may end up doing again online. And they were live captioned, actually with a captioner from New York. So again, that opens up the possibilities to collaborate with people. Even with our ASL interpreters, we can, if you can't find somebody in your city, you can work with somebody else if they're working in a different country. That's really awesome to be able to do that. So that was a big positive for us as well. Yeah, and so that's sort of what we're focusing on. To really sort of think about it right from the beginning, to get our artists to think about it so it's integrated right now.
Thank you, Lucy. It is really exciting, the opportunity and the accessibility. I've had lots of feedback about being able to join meetings now much easier, and you know, things like that. So it does, where it closes some opportunities, it definitely opens up others. Thank you for sharing all of that. There's a few things in the chat asking to have a look at what you do and to share it as well.
Yeah.
Thank you. You've just said thank you for sharing. Great. Adam.
Yes, how are you?
Good. Talking about collaboration, digital fringes are now a new way to open up international collaboration opportunities, as Lucy touched on there. So you twinned with Sydney Fringe, which you also touched on when you introduced yourself. Can you tell us about this collaboration and how you might continue with this type of collaboration in the future?
Well, you know, none of us wanted to be TV producers in the beginning of the year. We kind of all had planned their regular fringes. So when the whole hybrid digital versions landed on our desk, we realized, well, then it could be shared with a lot of people. And we've been in close dialogue with Sydney Fringe, planning a Nordic Fringe season at their festival after a pilot that we did here at Brighton Fringe Festival. And we kind of knew we had parallel dates, and there is, like Lucy mentioned, there's a lot of resources and money going into making things digital. So why not trying to reach to as wide audience as possible? So we synchronized particular gala evenings that we beamed out to each other's festivals. We shared digital content, so the pay-per-view or the pre-recorded stuff was sent to each other and kind of cherry-picked what was high-quality content. And we did two different versions. Sydney Fringe did pay what you want, and we did pay-per-view. Pay-per-view maybe wasn't as successful as pay what you want. It is hard to get people to pay for performance art. In real life, it's even harder digitally. And we think that we have to think twice of how we're gonna help the artists to monetize their work. It is super important for us that artists do earn money. We didn't take any fees. We we purchased Facebook ads for our artists. So we invested a lot in the artists to help them to reach an audience. But also we noticed that if the artists were thinking that because they're not performing at the real festival, they don't have to do the promo, well, then they didn't get as big of an audience as the acts who actually were bang on to spread their work. So it's important. One of the biggest lessons that we learned and that we kind of knew prior is that the digital needs even more promotion than the real life stuff. There's also other things that we learn, practical stuff about how you deliver towards a camera. We were a hybrid festival, so we had an audience in the room and we had the audience behind the camera, and it's the audience behind the camera that that performance towards the camera that will be watched for years to come. And it took a while for the artist to switch over. It was very successful. We think that the digital is here to stay. We're looking for collaboration partners for next year to be part of this global Fringe brand. We have to think of a way how to have an even quality, production quality. You know, are we going to be shooting with the same cameras? Can we, within the World Fringe Network, have, you know, there could be a setup that if you record a show, there'll be, you know, this would be the quality of the lens. These are the microphones that would be used. So it would be cool to synchronize, because right now, you know, from Crowdcast to Zoom to so many platforms that people use. We did use Facebook Live. We used a platform called Abundo, where we streamed and had pay-per-view. We used all the social media networks. We obviously used Zoom. And there was a lot of files going back and forth. So if we, in the beginning of next year, have a joint effort to have the global Fringe things in one place, that's going to save us a lot of uploading and downloading. So we're very keen to continue to do this regardless of what happens next year. We should have been doing this 10 years ago, but we do need to find money for it. And any sort of knowledge sharing, know-how, all the mistakes that we've made, we're happy to share with people. So these editions will be even better next year.
Thank you, Adam. How exciting. Looking forward to hearing more about that. And it did go really well, didn't it? The collaboration was good. Prague Fringe. So we go over to Prague and talk to Steve and Rosie. So you guys have produced a digital Fringe already, and that went really well, didn't it? And I'm interested, we're talking about monetizing. You did something really clever about monetizing the shows, but also the kind of peripheral activities. So things like virtual bar and stuff like that. So I'm really interested to know what happened with you guys.
It was pretty exciting. We hadn't planned we initially thought we wouldn't do an online event. We thought by May, people would be fed up of online content. And then I turned to Rosie about 2 weeks before and said, let's do 3, 4, 5 things a day, and it just suddenly expanded into this sort of mega event. So we set up the Fringe Survival Fund. So rather than people paying or paying what they fancied paying or paying a specific amount of money, we just sort of had this virtual bar, and it worked quite well.
Yeah, we didn't really have time to, back in the olden days, in April, May, we didn't have time to research all the various kind of paywall options, and we were really going for basic streaming just on YouTube and Facebook. So we didn't really have the ability to charge per show in the same way that we can now. So we just worked with our existing ticket agents to set up this one central fund, which we basically ran for the whole 9 days that we were online. And during each live stream, we'd share the link to the show, and we'd say to the audience that were watching, if you enjoyed it, why not buy the performers a drink in the virtual bar? Because in Prague, we have a wonderful Fringe club where you can mingle every night with the artists in the bar and buy them drinks. So it was a kind of a good reflection of what our Fringe is normally like, but in a virtual form. So that worked really well. So we had the cheapest sort of option you could select was 100 crowns, which is about €3, something, 3.50, the price of a drink. Or you could buy 5 of them or 10 of them or whatever. And then it ranged. You could buy the equivalent of a ticket to a show or 2 tickets to a show or whatever if you're watching with your family.
T-shirt and a Fringe bag, or you could go a whole level higher and become a sort of Fringe angel as well. It all went into the pot. So depending on how things balance out at the end of the year, it's going to be a really very important part of our whole budget in terms of surviving to the next festival. And it did really well. It was successful. About 4 minutes.
Probably. Thank you. No, it was really good to see as well. All of that was really inspirational of you guys to do that kind of peripheral stuff as well as putting on a festival so quick. I remember you deciding and then doing it, and it just seemed a very quick turnaround.
We have to give a shout out to Ellen, our amazing colleague who helped us pull it all together in those 2 weeks and run pretty much the whole thing. So thanks, Ellen. I don't think she's here.
She's pretty awesome, Ireland. Yeah, thank you.
We've also successfully received another grant from the Ministry of Culture here to enable us to do it was going to be a replacement of the festival in May. It was going to happen in October, but of course that's not going to happen. So we've actually got this other grant which we successfully applied for and were successful in getting, and it's to allow us to do another digital festival with 4 cameras and really high level quality streaming and all young new Czech performances. So it's called Fringe Reimagined. And we're quite excited about that. We got all the applications at the end of last week. We're looking through them now. And so it's going to be from that very basic, like pulling it together kind of level to something that's kind of much more professional. And so it's, as I said earlier, instead of bringing Prague to the world, we're presenting.
No, that's right.
Sorry?
You did what I did, round that way.
Oh,
Prague
that way. We're bringing Prague to the world instead of bringing the world to Prague. So
love it. Love that. Thank you. Well done for the funding. Brilliant in these times. Emily, at Istanbul Fringe, you ran a hybrid fringe, and you put international artists on digitally and local artists on live, which is a brilliant response. How did audiences connect with the international work on a digital platform? And I'm also interested in who performed and where did they come from as well.
So this was our 2nd edition this year, and it was we just had the experience of a physical festival last year, so it was our first experience, and we were developing ourselves for the 2nd edition, and then the first case broke out in Turkey on March 11th, and we were still receiving applications at this period. So we had quickly reacted and adapted the selection process. We restarted watching the videos, and then we pre-selected the videos of high quality, and then we sent them to our advisory committee. And at the end of April, we had the full program for an online festival. So we quickly decided to choose a platform which was YouTube for us. So we used YouTube for pre-recorded videos from the international artists, and which worked quite well for us. But at the beginning, we had only 7 subscribers on our YouTube channel, which was the team members of Fringe Festival, Istanbul Fringe Festival. And now we have 1,000 subscribers at the end of the festival, which is quite good. So we worked, and we also had a lot of conversations with all the artists on Zoom during this period. Some of them send us even like better quality videos and stuff. And some of them told us about the opportunity that they could broadcast their videos from their countries. So we had shows from Italy, Hungary, Taiwan, United Kingdom, and France, Belgium, Germany, and some other countries in Europe, and also 4 local companies. So we wanted to do live shows with the local companies, but actually it didn't work for us because Istanbul Fringe Festival took place between 21st and 27th of September. But just 2 weeks before, all outdoor concerts and shows were canceled because all the cases were increasing again in Turkey. So the government took decision to cancel all the outdoor activities. So even our opening show, which was planned to take place in an outdoor venue, couldn't take place. So we recorded a total new video for that, and an opening conversation that we also edited with the video, like before the video. And we put it on live on the first day of the festival, which was a kind of digital opening for us. And it worked quite well. We found a sponsorship only for this event. And we also had an idea of selling tickets for next year's edition. it's like early bird, but we put the name of Fringe support tickets, and we had 6 different options, from 1 show ticket to festival pass or workshop pass. So it worked quite well for us as well. And we also created a Patreon page for international artists to spread in their communities. This didn't go well for now, but we're still waiting for that. And also we had a lot of different panels and artist talks during the week of the festival, which worked quite well because we wanted to have a real experience and have the artists with us during this week as much as possible. And on Sunday, so the day before the festival, we created an event and we called it Live Brochure. And we had it on Instagram, our Instagram channel. And all the artists connected to our Instagram from all over the world, and they had like 2 to 4 minutes of explaining their shows for the audience. And this also worked quite well, and the idea of live brochure also worked quite well for us. And on the last day with Adam, we organized a speed dating on Zoom, which was also quite good because on Zoom you can create rooms and you can just jump people from one room to another, and it was a great event on Zoom. And at the end of the festival, we analyzed the statistics that we had on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. So we had, as I mentioned before, we had almost 4,000 viewers for 15 shows on YouTube in a week. And some tickets sold for the next edition already, which is also quite good. Right. And we had one performance on WhatsApp that was a local artist. It was actually just a conversation in a dark room, but he just adapted his show on WhatsApp. So he started on Saturday at midday, and it lasted 12 hours. He was sending voice recordings, stickers, some photos, and some texts on WhatsApp about the gay porn stars in the United States who had suicided. Oh. And at the end, he sent a suicidal text himself to the participants on WhatsApp, and it was quite tense. And he didn't suicide, of course. But it was a really tough WhatsApp performance. Crikey. And we had more than 150 participants on WhatsApp for that.
Wow.
So it also worked quite well.
Yeah, gosh, what an incredible breadth of different activity you've had as well. That sounds amazing. Well done. What a brilliant achievement. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you very much.
Next up, the last chat, and then we can have some questions. So if anyone's got any questions after the next speaker, then start getting them in the chat, or and we will come to you. The last one, obviously, last but not least, we've got Julian, boss of this Fringe that we are in at the moment and taking part in. Julian, you had to cancel one of the larger Fringe festivals in the world at very, very short notice. You've already put on one digital version of it, and now a few months later you are putting on a hybrid. Tell us what was feeling, because I know that was a really hard time for the Brighton Fringe, and wasn't a happy experience, but you've sort of come around from that. Tell us what happened.
I suppose everything happened with us as we were about to get started. We were 3 weeks out from the first venue build. We'd sold a lot of tickets, and we printed 20 tons of brochures, and they were sitting in the warehouse and also being distributed at that point as well. So yeah, it just unpicking that whole process has taken and continues to take a lot of time. Just refunding and issuing credit notes and vouchers for individual customers is a really, really labour intensive process. And fortunately, a lot of people have been wanting to donate, which is great. And most of the participants have wanted to transfer fees to either this festival or next year, which has also been great. But still, the conversations have to be done, and that a lot of that was being done with most of the team on furlough. So that was also a massive weight on our shoulders. And at the same time, we were undergoing sort of turmoil at board level. So we were having to have weekly board meetings and frantically find money to be able to keep ourselves going. Thankfully, touch lots of plastic wood. We're now at the stage where we are doing a festival, both live and online, and well, for those involved, it is a very much a live festival. But in terms of the scale that Brighton Fringe normally is, it's an opportunity for us to try to get it all right, because it's not something we've ever done before. We're doing this, which is fantastic, with the live streaming. But there are so many things that can go wrong with online streaming, that it was helpful to be able to do it with only 80 events. Normally there's over 1,000, so by the time we get to next year, who knows how big Brighton Fringe will be? Probably a fraction of the size of what we normally have it. But we'll have made the mistakes now, and we'll be stronger for it. I think I should stop, because I could go on for a lot longer than 4 minutes.
I don't think you even had your whole 4 minutes.
Really, I'll just talk generally. I've enjoyed watching cats and Xena cooking.
Yeah, it's been a really brilliant conversation with you all, and it just I agree that the innovation and the reactivity and resilience that Fringe festivals have shown, and the artists within it, is astounding, actually, and world leading and front running in all of these things, and the fact that you can pivot so quickly is just incredible. And congratulations to not just everyone who we've spoken to today, but all the Fringe festivals and all the artists who are making their way through this pandemic and coming out the other side. Good luck to everyone on that, and we're with you on that journey. Yes, lots of love. Someone has put in the chat here, it would be useful as a performer to have a central place to look at fringes, and both Kath and I immediately put worldfringe.com under, which has a list of 300 fringe festivals. Keith, you just need to remind this lot to update them, update their profiles, and then all of the information will be on there for you to see. We can, we have the platform for you there. Are there any other questions from anyone? Anita, is that a question from you, Anita? You can say it if you like.
I just wanted to know what the main lessons that everyone's learned from these hybrid festivals and what you'll take forward with you. I mean, for me, it's been, I just not so stressed. Not being so stressful. But, you know, I'd like to know what everyone else felt. What was their main lesson they've learned from
Adam's got his hand up for that one.
Yeah, it's just that it's a different medium, and that a lot of the fringe dynamics that we used to, the fringe vibe, it doesn't necessarily translate into digital unless you make it. So not gonna, you can't bring a Fringe show and digitize it or film it. You have to rethink the whole format, and you have to. It's a bit less spontaneous. It's like running a TV show with a minute schedule. You have to think of graphics. You have to think of all sorts of things. Of course, you can do lo-fi, but and also that you tend to not have so many things on at once, and that's in Stockholm. It translated to the shows that actually sold tickets sold more than shows usually would when there would be a normal Fringe. So because people were so hungry for performance art, and because there was less of it, it sold more. And this is a big lesson for the whole Fringe sector, because you've been to a lot of Fringe festivals where shows are more than half empty, including ours. So this is an important thing that we need to, the downscaling is not necessarily negative. And again, like somebody mentioned, do it again, do it better, and build it up with the new perimeters that we have.
And I think with that also, that sort of need for the performers themselves to really clue themselves up with their need to find their place in social media. It can't be entirely on us, I don't think, as producers of festivals to, I mean, obviously we'll all do our best. It really does have to be a two-way street now, I think. And everyone's got to become more savvy with that.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be going back to fully and only live. I think that we'll find digital in probably most Fringe festivals going forward, even when life goes back to normal, whatever that may be. Kath, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I was just going to respond to Kathleen's. Can people talk about replacing meeting the need for artist to artist social aspect, the parties, etc. We can't replace the parties, but we acted as quite a sort of meeting place platform during, in the run up to, during and after the festival, and we've carried on throughout the summer as well. So we do online meetings, you know, and actually the artists have found that really useful, especially during the height of lockdown, where they felt that it was nice to be part of something that was bigger than themselves. And they felt that sort of level of support, and they got to know each other's projects, and there's a lot more kind of promoting each other, which we always try to emphasize anyway, but there was a lot more promoting each other than maybe there have been at other times. So we really tried to create that community, which sort of worked quite well, you know, to some degree, obviously without the fun aspect, but with the kind of support network. And I think that's where festivals, Fringe festivals, have a strength, because they do provide a platform.
Yeah, they do, definitely. Carmel, you had your hand up.
So in the Wild West days, at the very beginning, in April, we made a point of doing talkbacks at the end of the shows. So we would, the shows were very short, they were only 30 minutes or so long. And then I would pop back on with the artist who, some of it, we had planned on some of them being live, and some of them, you know, we had backups for our backups, because as Adam said, streaming is, no, it wasn't, I think it was Julian. So much can go wrong when you're streaming. So many things can go wrong. So we had backups for our backups, which was really important. But even though we ended up playing things that were pre-recorded, we made a point of having the artist there live in the moment of the streaming, and then we invited people to come into the chat and drop questions, and I had a bit of an interview with them about the work to reflect. And what I noticed for us, and being a performer and artist myself, is that there's people who are not artists but love to watch and love to support, are really confused about how artists are even living right now. They don't know how they're living, they don't know what they do, they don't know what it's like. And so there's a lot of like, are you okay? Like there's a lot of love and curiosity on the internet for people that do what we do and what artists do. And so creating an opportunity for those questions to come in a maybe less condescending way of saying like, how did you develop this? How has this changed now in the Rona times? Or like, are you a human being? Like it made artists, I think, more accessible and more human, to be able to see them in the moment, like dealing with a lot of the things and problem solving, and also to get that dopamine of having people clap at the end of your show, having them want to come and buy you a drink. Those sound like small things, but I think now in month 7 we can all say like how much we really miss true interaction with people that's not filtered. So I think moving forward with the hybrid versions or whatever we end up doing, that cultivating a space for patrons and audience members to interact directly with artists is absolutely vital.
Let's hope that we don't get used to not being near each other. Steve, you had a response. You need to come off mute.
It was just a question that came up in the thing, but I've kind of answered it in there already.
And that was about training for digital work.
Yeah, but actually Adam and Lucy have mentioned that they're doing similar things as well.
Part of our programme in November will be some post-show discussions and workshops and Q&As with some of the artists. And one of the things that we want to do is a kind of a guide to streaming high quality and tips and things like subtitles, and either with one of the groups or with our production manager or both. So watch this space for our version of that.
Amazing. We've got a digital Fringe page on our website, so perhaps we could put some links to your training on there in one place, and then people can find it there as well. Perhaps that'd be a good idea.
Julian?
Hello. Yeah, we've noticed quite a few of the online shows are interactive as well. Like interactive children's shows, interactive comedy shows, and Zoom shows, and it's been quite a nice response to the whole issue of having to do things remotely, and also lots of events coming from overseas. So that the international nature of the Fringe festivals has a sort of infinite possibility, really, when you think about it, that you've got people from all over the world able to do their events without even having to leave their countries, which is good. In the circumstances, of course, we'd like to be able to travel more, to be able to go to these places, but it does mean that we're able to find some sort of solution in the circumstances to the circumstances, which is comforting, although somewhat a little bit unsatisfactory always. Having been to see some live performances recently, it was quite an emotional experience to get back into a live theatre after so long.
And you've had a wonderful stage on the beach as well, haven't you? Which we have been very jealous watching.
Yeah, it was amazing. The Warren Outdoors was a great piece of, I suppose, zeitgeist grabbing by Other Place to create that space and to invest heavily in something which was a real make or break opportunity. It wasn't part of Brighton Fringe per se, but it was one of the Brighton Fringe venues that did it. It was before our season began, but still, it set the tone, as it were, for the outdoor stuff. And we've got things going in the Brighton Open Air Theatre at the moment, which is brilliant. And yeah, again, seeing a ballet the weekend before last, it was just, yeah, it's amazing.
Imagine that. Wow, what a lovely thought to end on. I'm going to end there with just the thought of going to the ballet one day, or going to see some live events on the beach. Very well ventilated events down there.
It's very well ventilated on Brighton Beach at the moment.
Can I just add one more thing?
Of course.
It is super important for the artists to watch thing, and this is something that came up with conversations with Kerry a few weeks ago during our festivals, is that what's happening now, the digital stuff, it would be a new way to break a new audience in a town you haven't been to. So before you travel to the other side of the world, invest all this money to be in a festival, you will already have a bond with an audience. And that's where the digital can be very useful as well. It's not just an emergency solution because of the pandemic. We should have done this 10 years ago. So the better digital content, the more you're going to build that pool of audience. And you know, I think that's just positive. So it's definitely worth upping up the game with the digital. Usually mobile phone stuff is not going to cut the mustard, and I know after this edition. So lovely to see everybody, by the way.
Yeah, thank you everyone for coming along to this Fringe Academy this evening.
Thank you so much,
it's
everyone.
been fantastic. We'll be recording this recording of the main session will be available on the Fringe Academy resources page of our website, and there'll be links to the World Fringe website, and all of the links mentioned in the chat today. I'll be putting them on that page as well. For any of the audience watching.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for speaking. Thank you for listening. Thank you for doing what you do. Everyone's an inspiration. And we'll speak to you soon.